Well, that's the way we can kind of keep track on how things are going.
Yeah, well, yep.
I know she says there's 25 deaths on her. Last I seen, they're reporting 26, I thought.
Well, that's what I thought too.
Yeah. Scott, how's it going? Good. Your email address. What's this for? We gotta get a new dollar unit. Oh, gotcha.
Good morning, Sheriff. Good morning, Courtney.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
Wait. Good football Saturday. It's like one so good. Yeah, we did. Really good. I'm going to get it going. The ball right now. And good off that running back is. You see underclassmen, see the sophomore. He probably will not be. I don't know. I won't want to say that for sure, but I'm telling you what, he is hot right now. Yeah. So it's your quarterback. He went the quarterback that far. He went 23 or 25. He ran for a couple. He can make good decisions. Running backs are hard to come by in the NFL right now. He's top high. That's the downside. And I hate to see kids do that, but man, I can't blame them. You know? 7 or 8 years, about all your last. Well, that's all the NFL wants you to last. You get past 9, 10, 9, you get your 10th year, then you're locked in on famous forever. If you ever get a chance to talk to the supervisors, Bruce Ryan, he played for the Bengals for 9 years. Okay. And they he said, I felt as healthy then as I've ever been. He was one? Yeah. They paid him out. Yes, it's interesting conversation. Six to 7,000 calories a day. That's hard to do. It is. He said it. You know, it was hard at first. It became easier. Yeah. But he says, here I am, 68, and I'm suffering. He's had 5 bad right after. So I wish they would have taught me how to get rid of it. Yeah. You know, that's a lot of them guys. That's the first thing they do when they get out of the NFL or college football is they try to start that plan and get down to where they should be. Yeah. That's which I should be. I know where the holidays keep coming by. No. They taste so good. All right, good morning. We short, there's Neil, I see him there. Okay, it's 9 o'clock. I think we'll start off with the pledge of allegiance.
Of the United States of America. And to the republic for which it stands,
And
one nation, under
under
God,
God, indivisible, with liberty.
liberty and justice for all.
all.
All right, good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Courtney, did you have any changes for us on the agenda for today? Does anybody have any changes they would like to add to the agenda or delete?
If there are no changes to the agenda, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the approval of the agenda. Call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, motion carries. All right, minutes for the November the 30th meeting. Y'all received your copy of that?
I'll make a motion to approve them as presented.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the approval of the November 30th minutes. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed. Okay, first thing up is the sheriff vehicle quote.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to be replacing our K9 unit, which is driven by Deputy Smaldone. And truth be known, right now we have a 2016 Explorer that serves as our K9 vehicle. And I wish I wouldn't have even wasted a couple of these dealers' time getting bids for a Durango or an Explorer. That those vehicles just aren't big enough. With the K9 insert that goes in the back seat, the way it works is the dog has 2/3 of the back seat. Any prisoner you haul has 1/3 of the back seat. And the way the insert sits in there, the driver's seat and the passenger seat in front lean clear forward. I've ridden in his car. I'm about kissing the windshield. You're pushed so far forward. For that reason being, I'd like to get the Tahoe. I did listen. I emailed everybody a copy of the quotes. I don't know if you got them or not this morning. Long story short, we're looking for the Explorer and the Durangos around 87 cubic feet of space inside, and the Tahoe has 122 cubic feet of room. And the quote I got was from Carroll Chevrolet, Brian Spangler and Coon. And that is the state bid price plus or minus our trade-in for $28,382. And that car hauls, he has a bite suit in there, all the equipment he needs for the dog. We just need something a little bit bigger.
Can we make that dog kennel any smaller? I see some of the other quotes for other smaller vehicles are quite a bit less.
Unfortunately, the boxes just come as is. The inserts for the dog kennels, they're not manufactured by us. We just buy the insert, the door popper, all that stuff. And I was actually going to take a picture of his current vehicle and send it to everybody, but I didn't. I just trusted my word would be enough, but it's cramped. It's
Well,
not a good situation.
Ken was thinking maybe if you could take your kennel to a welding shop or somewhere and have it custom reduced in size. There's quite a bit of difference between 28,000 and some of the other bids.
I agree, but you're getting a lot more room for that. I'm not saying I want to do this for every vehicle down the road by any means. We like the Explorers, we like the Durangos. This is just a specialty vehicle. And I wouldn't really want to go have somebody try to modify a cage that's built a certain way.
Okay.
Did you give any thought to pickup versus enclosed? I mean, that puts the animal on the outside in the element a little bit more.
The dog's got to have air conditioning. I mean, these cars, I mean, it has a heat sensor in it. I mean, the handler wears an alarm if for some reason the power goes off in the car and it reaches a certain temperature, his alarm goes off on his belt. It's got to be a climate control element.
Yeah, I think there's just more to the story than the vehicle itself. I mean, I can see an advantage. You can't even haul did you say you can haul a prisoner if he was making an arrest?
Yeah, he can. It's a very, very tight fit.
It's a small prisoner.
A third of the back seat of a Explorer.
Okay.
And he does have to transport prisoners. I mean, he has to go pick people up on warrants and people he arrests. So he's not immune from hauling people.
So Ken, what happened here that we've been using Explorers and stuff? Did they make them smaller, these last models?
No, that Explorer we have right now is the only one that we've ever had truly set up for a canine vehicle with the insert, the door popper. We've had dogs in the past, canines, but they've never been dual purpose dogs where they do the bite work. So when you have a dog that has to do the bite work and stuff, you have to buy these inserts. Then there's a hydraulic door popper on the vehicle, so the dog can, if the handler gets in trouble, he can hit a release on his belt, and that hydraulic thing pushes the door open so the dog can get out. So that's why we did the first one as an Explorer. Not really realizing how tight it was going to be. And that was 4 years ago.
Maybe this is out of your area of expertise, Ken, but what would the trade-in value be on this vehicle versus, say, an Explorer or a Durango? Any idea?
I've got to think substantially higher, but I don't know off the top of my head. I can't give you any type of dollar figure.
The base starts off quite a bit higher. So
Yeah, the base price starts off at, I mean, once they start throwing in the government discounts and stuff, it makes it somewhat feasible.
it starts off $15,000 higher. So I assume that that'll translate into a freight price on the other end.
I would think so. And he keeps a clean vehicle, so.
I guess I'd have to agree with Neil. I think it's a considerable amount of money, and I think that I've often seen Tahoes, around, but I guess and kind of chiming in on what Gene had to said, we've been using this vehicle this way. So, I mean, it's not like it's out of the question that we can't use an Explorer again.
Well, wasn't the original Explorer though set up for canines, and this one is not? Is that the deal, Ken? Do I understand that correctly?
What was that again, Neil? I didn't quite understand the question.
Wasn't your original one, the one you have now, specially set up for dogs, whereas the one that's being bid now is not? Is that correct?
Yeah, the new one will have to be set up. I mean, new insert. And we'd have to get a new insert if we went with the Explorer too. I mean, they redesigned. They fit specifically in the vehicle. The whole back seat comes out and this insert gets put in.
Okay.
So, yeah, the new one's gonna have to be set up regardless. I realize it's more money, but I'm just looking at the increase in room in it for all the equipment and for, you know, a little bit of comfort. These guys spend 8 hours in their car a day. And I would certainly think trade-in is gonna be substantially higher. I can't give you an exact figure.
Do you know what the difference is as far as expense, as far as operating it, as far as mileage and that?
No,
Are the motors the same size?
the Explorer just comes with a V6. The Durango, the last 2 Durangos we've ordered, we've spent a little bit more to get the V8 because it doesn't have that shutoff mechanism I talked about with the V6s on our first Durango. So both the last 2 Durangos we've got have been V8s. And of course this Tahoe would be a V8. So I would assume mileage would be pretty much the same as those.
We're not going to have an issue with this shutting off on this, are we?
No. No, and it is a police package, pursuit rated. So it meets all our specs that we asked for.
Well, and I see they're giving us less for trade too.
They are. But a lot of that's smoke and mirrors as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I'll agree with you there. They can make this the bottom figure.
And one other thing, I guess, for what it's worth, Carroll has 300 of these ordered, so they will be getting them on their lot pretty soon, the police packages, since they have the state bid. So availability shouldn't be a problem like some of the other issues we've had down the road before waiting 6, 7, 8 months to get a vehicle.
Well, as we go through the agenda, we're going to see some increases in coming right along. And I think at some point in time, we're going to have to start addressing cutting back on some things. And this is going to be a tough year. Again.
All right, what's the wishes of the board?
Sheriff, is there a chance you could have a conversation? I'm trying to do some quick comparisons here. You could have a conversations for trade-in on that Tahoe number, because I think it's 70, is it 7,900? Yeah, that Tahoe quote, it's 7,900. Could they come up a little bit in that trade? And I do agree it's smoke and mirrors on trade numbers. But to answer your question, as far as trade-in value on a Tahoe compared to an Explorer, Tahoes do hold their value more because they're a larger SUV. But I'm trying to do an actual comparison, and I'm seeing a difference in, what is it, about $7,000? Or am I missing something? I obviously just got this email this morning.
You're pretty close.
Okay.
Yeah, about 6,000.
Would it be worth your time to reach out and see if you could get a little bit more trade-in on the value? And I agree with Dean too. We're gonna have a tough year because, you know, with everything shut down.
It's 72,56,650.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I can ask them if they'll give us a little more on trade-in.
You know, I know Carl's probably got the vehicles on hand, but I wonder if you would hurt to reach out to the north on a bid from another Chevy dealer too. I'm sure Carl's gonna be hard to beat because they're basically
They have the state contract,
and they're basically the wholesaler for the state of Iowa. So,
why they're able to give us the big government discounts,
but sometimes that always isn't true though. It wouldn't hurt to reach out.
I do have a problem with exposing all these bids and then asking for more bids. I don't have a problem with talking to them about the trade-in value though, but I have got a little bit of problem with having a bidding process and then exposing it publicly and then asking for more bids.
I do too, Neil.
That's just not quite right for the people that have submitted initial bids.
No, it's not.
Unless we would refuse all these bids and start over. The ones that have submitted bids can submit another bid, a new bid. We could do that. We could reject all these bids.
I just wish there was a way, Ken, that you could make that dog kennel work in the lower price vehicle. Period.
Well, and Ken, this
Can't make
price,
a smaller vehicle. It's just that simple.
but Ken, this price that you're quoting today does not even include that pen for the dog, does it?
No, it doesn't include any of the equipment that has to go in the car.
See, that's where the next surprise comes at.
Yeah, it's easy to see you're getting quite a bit more room, size, and that type of thing. It's just an added expense of having a dog, right?
Yeah, that's partly true, Neil, but it also, and to operate the vehicle, probably the extra room is probably needed. Yeah, it might fit in an Explorer or a Durango, but then that becomes a problem with the officer doesn't have all his capabilities, because if he has to make an arrest, there's a very good chance that he's not going to put him in the rider's seat right beside him, depending on what the arrest is. So now we have to dispatch another vehicle to come help clean up, and that can be there's a cost to that also. I assume that with the larger vehicle, there would be room for a cage in the back for a prisoner and the dog, both. Whereas the Durango is basically the dog. So there's a value in the bigger vehicle that maybe we don't see, but it's more expensive. I get that. I also get that this is a tough year and going to continue to be tough for a little while, but I want the people to have the correct tools to do their job. That's the problem that I see.
Well, I was driving Highway 20 yesterday, and there was a patrolman who had somebody pulled over, and he was driving a Chevy Tahoe. So we aren't the first ones to buy one if we do.
No,
I'd say 90% of the canine units are Tahoes. I mean, it just, there's more room. Do I like the extra expense? No, but I think you're gonna see that difference in trade-in 4 years down the road.
Okay. Well, I hate to spend the extra money, but it might be a better long-term investment as well. Well, I've asked a lot of questions, and I'll now make a motion that we accept the bid from Carroll Chevrolet. I think you realize my reluctance, but I do think the exercise is worth it.
And I will second that.
did you say second that, Steph? There was a little walk-on thing. Okay, just want to make sure. Okay, any more discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept the Carroll Chevrolet bid for a 2021 Chevrolet Tahoe. I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 And opposed. Motion carries. Okay.
Thank you for your time
There you go.
and have a good day, everybody.
Thank you, Cam.
Okay, the next thing up is we're gonna make a little jump here. Terry's here, so we're gonna go ahead and bring Terry up. Terry, did you have a 9:30 issue, or do you want us to be right at 9:30? I don't know. All right, very good. Means you're bearing all great news for us. Well, I'm continuing to add to your bad year. I expect you to come up with a Santa hat and bring us gifts. A bag of cash. Yeah, a bag of cake, but sorry to disappoint. Yeah, you did. Well, thank you so much for allowing me some time here today. I think you all have the summary of concerns. What I plan on discussing here today is the narrative, which is just a page with 6 bullet points on there. And I'll be happy to entertain questions or thoughts on the actual packets. The one, they both do the same thing. They go through and they give you detailed information on coverages on each building, each unit, and so forth. And I'll start off by saying each year we provide Courtney with a list of information, and she goes to each department head, and each department head then gives back us feedback on any changes, things that are going on in their departments, and then we make any adjustments and so forth. So to kind of just dive right into it, on that sheet, the first one is property. Currently, we have 2 rather large builder's risk policies, one for the jail and one for the shelter house on Swan Lake. So those properties are still under construction, but we did increase the value on your policy. As you can see there, over $500,000 of new increased value, and that's on top of the builder's risk. So we have a general increase of 2% on your property. And so that additional premium of $4,600 is increased value of property. The second thing is your liability premium is based on.
Terry?
Yes.
Can I have a question on the first point that you just made? And it's a $4,618 increase on the jail and the shelter house Swan Lake. Do not the builders have insurance until it reaches a level of substantial completion? Is it being double insured? That's my question.
We go through that at the beginning when the projects are started. And there's two opportunities. They can be covered by the owner of the property, which would be the county, or they can be covered by the builder. And in this situation, we chose, or it was chosen to have the county cover them. Like I said, I would say it's probably a 50-50 bid. It really, it really doesn't make much difference, because if you have the contractor cover it, they're just going to include it in their truck cost to you. So,
Plus,
I just wanted to make sure that they weren't both insuring it
No.
and we insuring it while it was being built.
no.
Okay, that answers my question, Terry. Thank you.
I went through, the jail was by far the biggest one. And so I talked to Ken on that when the whole process was being originated in the bid. So, but good question. Point two, the liability is based on the expenses, and you can see that the expenditures for the prior year to the coming year are increased from 18.6 to 22.2 million. So that increases the liability premium about $4,000 there. The auto liability, as you can see, they added an additional ambulance after the policy was quoted. The nice thing about ICAP is on vehicles, when you add them, they don't charge you for the year that they're added on. So you've got to, basically from the time that was added on, they just automatically pick that up and then you pay the additional time that it gets added on. So point three, the auto physical damage.
Just a second, Terry. Let's back up that ambulance. We added one on. We also took one off, didn't we?
I believe you did, but you're taking a vehicle that's lesser value and you're increasing the value, and that's where we're getting to point three, where your total amount of physical damage, when we add up all the values of your vehicles, that value increased by $384,000 of value. Does that make sense, Dean?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to make sure we're taking stuff off too.
Yeah, as you've seen there, it says they added 2 sheriff cars, 1 additional pickup, and deleted 2 vehicles, just liability the past year. So they took off a couple of vehicles that were liability only. They added vehicles that are full coverage, which makes sense. You've got new vehicles replacing old ones.
were there 2 loader graders also brought on to this policy?
This policy does not
Does not
cover,
cover those?
no, that's a separate policy that we have elsewhere.
Because I know that they were brought on, I believe, last year. 2 went off, 2 came on.
Okay, yeah, those are on a separate policy.
Okay, here.
So in essence, the amount of premium that you're being charged went up just over $10,000. The bad news is ICAP, along with almost all the property insurers in the state of Iowa or throughout the Midwest, were hit with storms. Derecho, if I'm saying that right, was by far the single largest loss in the history of the state of Iowa by a large margin. So property insurers just had a bad year, and the credit that you are not receiving is directly impacted by that. They had a bad year, as did all property insurers. So it's not necessarily a dividend program, but it acts very much like a program did not have a great deal of success with all the losses that they sustained. So that credit of $18,000, that's varied anywhere from $25,000 to $12,000 over the past 10 years. And so that goes away. Hopefully we will get that again next year, barring, another bad year. But so the good news is that they're still offering the safety grant. I just mentioned it to Ken when he walked out. All the county coverages are eligible for a $1,000 safety grant. That program is still in place, so they can use that for any safety equipment that they use. And that's all the ICAP policy. So we have E911, Comm Center. I think there's 4 of them that we're going together to use it for whatever they want, as long as it's safety related. So that program is still in existence. So that's a little bit of good news.
So our ICAP
typically, in a typical year, would have, our benefit, just Carroll County would have been in that 18,000.
Right,
And that did not come this year because of
the
the
poor
property
property
loss that was.
Right.
The advantage we have of being in that big pool, this is the disadvantage of when bad things happen to a
Right.
large.
Right, Carroll County was not directly impacted,
Right.
negatively. I mean, there were some small losses throughout the year, but overall, and it's a complicated issue when you get into these companies, because these companies also buy reinsurance. And so it's them protecting, they only, no matter what company insures you, they only take on a certain percent of the risk. Once it gets so large and you're large enough with the volume that they have, that all companies are going to go out and purchase reinsurance. And they're the ones that really, they have less capacity and they charge more. So those things all, and that's a year by year basis. They'll evaluate that at the end of this year for next year and so forth. And so, hopefully things will happen. But all of the programs that are out there that are like dividend programs, or in your situation, it's not a dividend, but it works like that, where they look at the success of the pool. And like I said, I didn't bring it, but over the past 10 years, I think it's ranged anywhere from 12 all the way up to $25,000 for a member credit. And as you see, last year you had 18,000, and this year, unfortunately, that's not. So the premiums went up, but that really is not a big impact. $10,000 was a relatively small increase when you look at the increased risk that the company is getting with more value on vehicles and buildings. So 10,000 was, in my opinion, not a bad increase at all. It just looks bad because the $18,000
It wasn't there.
wasn't there. So. I think we did on work comp, which is in July. That actually went down last year. Saved you, I think it was $70,000. So overall on the year was, I talked to Courtney a little bit because I was concerned for budgeting purposes. I don't know how much flexibility you had, but she thought that you might be close. Is that right, Courtney?
Yeah.
Because we had a decrease on that, so we're still within her margin of acceptability, I guess, for lack of a better term. Questions? I'd be happy to go through. We got a lot of pages there. We could spend all morning here.
Gene asked a question, why we were increasing on the ambulance, and the replacement vehicles are worth more than the old vehicles that they replaced. Are we properly reducing coverage on our vehicles as they get older?
On auto insurance, they anticipate a reduction in value. Just like your personal auto policy, when you buy a vehicle, you buy a 2021 vehicle today, and it's worth $50,000. They take in, just as you're aware, like the Blue Book cost is going to be $50,000 for first year. Second year, it depreciates on average, to whatever state it is. And so, yes, that's all built into an auto policy, that value is decreased as time goes on, until the point where it reaches a value that you feel is not worth covering it for,
Yeah, I see some of our older vehicles have no coverage. That's fine with me.
Right. And we can always consider the cost of, how much does it cost for comp and collision? A lot of times, the county's a little bit different, but, sometimes they keep comp on because of windshields and stuff like that. The county's usually not too concerned about that, because that's, in the grand scheme of things, if you don't have comp on all those minor vehicles, the cost savings for what you comp collision coverage offset, you have to pay for a windshield in a given vehicle or something like that. So.
You're in the insurance business. I'm not. Is there anything else we should be looking at, Terry?
I don't think so. I mean, we work with Zach here, on the safety committee, And he works with Ken quite a bit on some of the other entities like D91, and we kind of keep track of, you know, if there's something that's going on or coming new in the world of insurance or in the world of counties. Last ones I can think of, and Ken obviously just left, but you know, things like use of tasers or those kind of things, or working with any drones. We try to stay on top of that, and because this program is geared towards just municipalities, they have a crew of experts and attorneys, and you quite often see me at the ISAC functions, and that's what we're doing. We're getting information from them and from other things, and what's trending, what's coming up in the world of county risk. And so we try to stay on top of that, and we work with Zach and his crew, you know, working with safety meetings to make sure that not only new trends, but if something happens here, if we see, you know, in the area of work comp, if we see a bunch of slip and falls or something like that, we would say, okay, well, maybe the courthouse needs to put some tread on the steps or something like that. So we do try to stay on top of that. This is, you know, an interactive program. We keep, you know, it's not just the premiums. We want to make sure that if we can get ahead of things and prevent a loss, that's better than, you know, paying for a loss of a slip and fall or whatever it is. So yes, we do try to stay on top of it, but I don't have any recommendations at this point to change anything. I think you're in pretty good shape. Like I said, last year we talked a little bit about what your limits are. That's always the toughest one. You're kind of in the middle of the path as far as your limits of liability. So like I said, I think you're in good shape. I really don't have any recommendations. You know, I think you're to be commended. Your safety committee works hard and does a good job of keeping losses to a minimum. And if there is a loss, they stay on top of it and minimize what's going on, and they just do a good job.
Terry, as we progressed through the jail project, we came into the computer room. I believe we may have called you and asked if we put in a different fire suppression system, if there was any value in the overall picture of insurance on the building.
Well, yes and no. I mean, fire suppression is good, and in that particular room, you were looking at a dry suppression system, thought being, you know, if a wet system goes off, it's potentially going to ruin a lot of
More damage.
computer software. You know, we talked to the company, and they look at it as the building is either protected with a system or not, and they look at it and they don't separate the values because they can't determine, you know, in their calculations, they don't look at what's in the room or contents. They just look at it for the building itself. And so in a situation, you know, sometimes a wet sprinkler system might be an advantage. The next time a dry system is. Ironically, you know, I've done my own little research on buildings that are sprinkler, and believe it or not, there's been more damage caused by sprinklers going off
Then the fire
than the
itself.
fire has caused.
I've heard that before.
And so it's sort of like, well, you know, you had airbags in your car. Well, you get a break on your medical payments because it helps protect the driver, but your physical damage goes up because if they go off, it's $2,000 or $5,000 to repair your dash. So you know, it's a little bit of smoke and mirrors. I mean, it's good on one side, but it might cost you on the other. But I did look at it. I think Gene called me on that, whatever, when that debate was coming on. And again, probably not what we wanted to hear, but like I said, it's just the way the insurance companies, they don't go through room by room and say, okay, you know, this computer room, which I assume that it was not going to put the dry system through the whole building, it's going to be in that room. So they don't do it for total value of the building.
Okay, kind of sticking with that and then blending one you just talked about. You just talked about the money that we get from ICAP for safety programs. Would you classify that sprinkler system, that special system, as a safety factor for the rest of the people in that building?
They looked at that, you know, they've given it for alarm systems, you know, there was, I don't know if we did it with, there was like panic buttons or whatever we looked at. I don't know if we used it for that one year, but that would be eligible.
That
So,
would be something that we could shift that money
Yeah,
to.
there's, oh, I mean, it's only $1,000.
Right.
I don't mean that, but I mean, the county can find it a way to spend every year.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
there's-
something you buy is gonna qualify. Now, some of the smaller ones like E911 and don't probably always have them. So in some respects, that's kind of what Ken is doing, is he combines all four of them and they get maybe something that they can all use, like a drone. And so they were all able to commingle their funds, and then you guys do with it what you want, but that was a high ticket item, drone, and then they did, and so they could all kind of went together to get that, where the three other smaller departments probably may or may not have had the money for $1,000. So,
Okay, just curious how the things, what qualifies, what doesn't.
So Terry, I have a
Any
question
more
for you.
questions?
yeah,
Can you recall what kind of increase we had last year? And did the $18,000 credit that we got, did that wipe us? You know, that obviously wiped us out. I can't recall. I mean, does anybody have that recall?
I got that information. I don't know.
I'm just curious as to what kind of an increase we had if we did not have the $18,000 credit. I
Last
guess.
year, you were at 204,000. I think before that, you were at 190 some thousand, low 190. So you went up about 10,000 last year too. But again, I don't know how much, that's just actual premium. I don't know what changed next year. You know, if you added a bunch of vehicles or your expenditures, I don't know what they did as far as if it was higher or lower from the previous year, and if there was anything that we added as far as property or vehicles. So, but I know it was in the low, around 190,000.
It was, I have that figure, last year's bill was $190,349.
Okay, so that's close.
Yes, sure.
Because we did this.
Well, just a general comment, I guess, that I would make. We're going to see these increases as we go along, and the only thing is that 10,000 here, 10,000 there, all of a sudden it becomes real money, and we're going to be asking our taxpayers to pay for that. That's the hard part.
To answer more specifically your question, as stated here, we had $18,167 member credit. The year before, we had $21,707 member credit that was applied. Okay.
Thanks, Neil. You can always count on Neil. He's got the answer.
No,
Right there.
not after the end of the year, you can't.
How do you know? We may call you anyway.
That's fine.
Okay, any other questions? All right, Terry, you got anything else for us?
No, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Terry.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Courtney, do we need a motion to accept this or?
No, you'll accept it when we pay for it.
Okay,
I have a question for you, Courtney. Do we pay, how do we pay this? Do we pay this on a monthly basis?
No, we pay lump sum.
Lump sum? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, we'll be paying it in January.
All right, okay, Harry, thank you.
Thanks, Terry.
Back with
Thank you,
Barry.
Barry.
Thanks, Terry.
Okay, the next thing up is back to the jail project, change order 5. Y'all have copies of that? And that was for 8730.
Well, it's basically for changes on,
Right.
I don't know, what would you call it?
There was a passage door, a recessed door, a lintel.
Changes as per construction?
They were all construction changes. They were all pretty minor. It comes to about $8,730, but it's still $8,730. I think we went through this at the presentation from Bating Construction and Chi Battery. Pretty much covered why they were there and why it was done that way. We just need to make the approval of it today.
I think at that point where we were assuming that on number 3, which was $2,366, that included a return of a 34 by 24 damper to Dries. And I just hope that they followed up on that and that return is included in the deduction of that, included in that price. But I think it is. I brought that up at our last jail meeting.
And I think that's probably should bring up again at the next one to make circle back on that, make sure that happens.
It's noted on here that it's to return. So I agree with you, Neil. Hopefully they follow through on that. I think we'll have to keep following through on it. I will make a motion that we approve the change order number 5 of $8,730 due to construction changes, I guess is what you'd call it.
I'll second that motion, Gene.
Any more discussion? Okay, if not, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of change order number 5 on the jail project, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
And opposed?
Aye.
Okay, next thing up is the door openers.
I think everybody, can you confirm that you received the email that I sent out? I think Courtney also forwarded it to the board as far as that sensor push button. Obviously, the jail comes standard with the ADA regulated push button. And I do not think Tony could confirm exactly where that was going to be located. And then I also asked about the pedestal, like Dean had mentioned. His response is what you guys got, so we can just go from there for discussion.
Well, we all know that it's going to be
FDA approved, whatever went in there is going to be, that was on the original bid. This was an add-on of I'm gonna call it a wave opener where you just wave your hand. I've been watching people come and go out of the courthouse. Now, I know we went years without it, and it is fairly new, but it's been on there 7 or 8 months. And just personally watching people, hardly anybody uses it. Now, whether it's not marked enough, it's something that they don't see normally. I don't know why they're not using it. I'm just saying that I'm not sure I'm starting to see any value in it anymore. People with ADA handicaps are kind of used to a certain set of rules, and as long as they're present, they can function through that. It's when they don't, or they're not there. And I think if we get to tinkering with it too much, we could be altering their normalcy that they understand and see. I guess I'm starting not to see the value in it. I don't think the germ problem that we're having now will be here with us forever. Now, will there be other benefits and other flus and things? Yeah, there could be some benefit there, but like I said, I'm starting to weigh the value as not being there. But that's just strictly my opinion.
Well, and I think, Rich, you're right that I think that thing is those buttons that we have that are not identified very well. That, and I think people are used to that push button. I guess my point is I don't want to change things too much. I think I agree with you. I think we're going to wind up getting into some additional cost.
I know it's like 700 and, was it 717 or 770? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
somewhere's in there.
That ballpark, and I just thought, for the money, I guess, to me, it just didn't seem worth it, but I'm not the only one on the board.
So how do these doors activate right now? I mean, how are they going to activate under the drawing? How are they activated?
I assume they're a push button, but whether there's a pedestal or not, I do not know that. We had a pedestal out further out, but I assume that this was all thought through and ADA approved, so.
Yeah, I'm okay with it the way it is. I mean, when we changed it to the current entry on the courthouse, I would say that it was not really an improvement. So
it might have been a little more complicated.
Well, I think if we'd had a better identification of those locations, those buttons, and where they're at, we can't put up too big a sign because then you're covering glass. I think that's the biggest problem.
Yeah, we had some limited circumstances also. Our frames were only so big, the wires were only in a certain spot. We just couldn't wave our wand and make that work perfect. Yeah, I agree. So my recommendation is just drop the hand wave door openers that operate with what were originally scheduled to be built, and go from there.
I'm okay with that, Rich.
I'm
I am
okay
too
with
with this. I am too.
Okay, very good. Then I think then we'll, Jeff, you want to notify Tony that we're just gonna, if whatever it is, and we're not gonna worry about it. Thank you. Okay, the next thing up is discuss the fiscal year budget assignments. Courtney did us a huge favor and sent out some committee appointments, budget assignments. And we're starting getting ready for the next fiscal year and the budget process. I think you all seen that there are several, let's stay with the appointments first. There's several appointments that are expiring or have expired or people have been shifted off. Or, we've got a large process to get rid of. We need to get people back on some of these boards. So if you would take time, read them, double back, come to see if you can find a representative from your district or area that might show some interest. Neil's district and mine are in town, so that kind of eliminates a couple of the boards. We can't have anybody in the 2 mile or in those situations, so we'll do the best we can, and we can certainly hit the ground and see what we can find also. The budget assignments, I've had a little discussion with the vice chair. We've got some particular boards that, in my opinion, I think we maybe need to do a little shifting of the assignments for the boards. And if we do that, then that could change some of the budgetary assignments. It doesn't have to, but it could. That's kind of up to your guys' opinion. And I'll cite the first one that Gene and I have talked about, and it's the mental health Rolling Hills region. I think there's a large turnover on that region with Neal and Crawford County not being on. Cherokee County is going to have a new face. There will be new faces in Humboldt and Pocahontas County. So there'll be a lot of new faces on this board. And it's a very big part of our budgetary process and our region as a whole. I told Gene that I would be interested in jumping over to the Rolling Hills, but I need to get rid of a couple of other boards. So, but if I do get rid of those boards, then I don't think I should be part of the budgetary process for that board if I'm not going to be on. So that's just strictly my opinion.
That's not on here. That's not one of the three budgets.
Yeah, I think the only one that we're talking about for pre-budget assignments would be the ambulance, right?
Correct. Yeah, I'm just trying to tie it together. Yes, would be the ambulance board, and that's not a necessary thing. I can still be on that budgetary if you would like for me to, but I think whoever we put on that ambulance board, I think it would be a very advantageous if they were part of the whole pie, not just a piece of it.
Do we realistically think we'll start doing any of this before the first year?
No, we
Okay.
started on some of this right away.
On your budget.
On the budget side. But this is just a thought process that I'm throwing out. This is.
You
kind
say
of-
we will, you think we will start these pre-budgets before the first year?
I think you should, yes.
Yeah, I would like to. Because this is gonna be a hard year.
Well, if we do that, we also got to take a look then, because if we're looking at the pre-budget assignments, you've got Veterans Affairs and General Assistance. Now that we've contracted that out, I think that those two areas need to address the board in some way. So that opens up 2 spots as well. Unless we want to keep somebody that goes out and meets with our contractor.
The only thing we've done is general assistance, the only one that we contracted.
Yeah, Veterans Affairs stays.
Yeah.
I've always done the general assistance budget anyway. So
Say that again, Courtney?
I've always done the general assistance budget anyway. So this year when I do it, instead of having a salary in there, we'll just have an amount for new opportunities. And I reached out to him because we were gonna look at their rate after 6 months. And he says he's gonna talk to the people that are doing the program and get back to us. So sounds like it's running really well. So hopefully there really won't be any changes, but we'll know. Anyway. So whoever meets with me obviously we could do general assistance at that time too.
That's true.
Because I also will do the supervisor's budget.
So, Rich, you're going to, I mean, we're just discussing this, but potentially getting off the ambulance, which that's, I serve with you. What about our newly elected? Taking
Well,
that,
that was my point. If we're gonna wait to start doing some of this stuff after the first year, or even if we do, if he's willing to be available before the first year, and we could have Neil be involved in it. I don't know what your thoughts, Neil. Do you want to be involved in it, or you want to?
I'll help in any way, shape, or form, but of course, on the final budget, I won't be voting on it.
Yeah.
Scott will be. So I'm not sure. I don't want to shirk my responsibility last month, so I'll be glad to help in any way. But
I guess
I won't be voting on the end product. All I can do is
no,
ask
and
questions.
I mean, I just don't want to shortchange it either. But I guess my suggestion is that if we, wherever Neil's at, that we put Scott in there. And one thing about it, he's not elected yet, so we don't have to worry about the 3 persons being there because he's not elected official yet. That would be my thought anyway. And then on that ambulance that we replace Rich with Scott. And then leave the rest the way they are. Does that make sense to you?
Fine
You know,
with me.
the ambulance, I mean, there's been discussions in the past of basically disbanding that board. So, I mean, it's not that I think it'd be fine. It'd be fine. I'm not trying to take anything away from that board, but I mean, we have to admit
Rich and I had some discussions. Rich's thought was too that we leave the ambulance there for, especially when we hire a new director, they need to be kind of maybe involved. So we got another set of hands on to look at it, and more for policy changes than anything, not so much as the budgetary.
right.
I think that board needs to be there. They just don't need to be meeting like they have been in the past.
Right. There's so many pieces of that that's just on automatic pilot. And a lot of the policy is given by the doctor. Can't think of which doctor it is right now.
Well, the medical director.
Correct. He does a lot of the internally, and there's nothing that board ever does with that. So like I said, it's other than maybe a new director or a few, maybe some of the minor policies, the way things are done. It's not a huge responsibility, but if there is going to be some stuff to deal with there.
So that would be my suggestion, that we just, on the ambulance, we put Scott on there. And then where we have, where Neil's at, we put Scott also with him for the time being.
Okay.
Rich, I might, bring out the GIS is split out now from IT. And zoning, and planning and zoning will be with Carroll. whoever's gonna be looking at environmental probably can look at P&Z. IT would be the same, but it's out on its own now.
So, yeah.
Well, I guess I'm gonna bring up, and Dean, I'm gonna want your input on this. I was gonna wait until committee reports to bring this up. But if we're talking about board appointments, I did receive an email from the Hungry Alliance, the Hungry Canyons Alliance, and I was nominated to be put on the scoring committee. But Dean, I think you noticed, I think they sent you the email this month. We're going to be doing a Zoom with East and West Nishnabotna. I want to double check that, but if there's a board to be switched around, I did not accept the nomination yet because I wanted to get through this appointments first, but I wanted Dean, I was going to wait until our committee reports, but if we want to discuss it now, since it's on the agenda, do you feel I should go ahead with that appointment? I mean, if they're going to continue to combining together, obviously you already sit on those watersheds. What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, and we've had these discussions before, as far as pairing up committee assignments with what you're already doing. I took over EMA, and because I was on the Region 5 hazmat. So, I mean, that was a natural, and I'm just trying to think here. I think we've had other ones like that. And so is that kind of what you're referring to? In that, that I'm already on the watershed management boards, that I should probably be in Hungry Canyons as well.
Yeah, and I didn't want to accept that nomination.
Yeah, I've given that some thought. And I how often does Hungry Canyons meet? Is that a quarterly?
Yeah, it's 3 times a year.
3 times a year, so it's not that much.
Yeah. But then I would be open to accepting another board appointment if somebody wanted to give me one. Yeah. But you're so involved with all the watershed management, I was just kind of like,
Well, I have thought about that a little bit, Stephanie. Okay. So, I mean, that's a consideration going forward. When do you have to have that nomination in? Do they want to know that?
I sent him an email back and said I was going to speak with the board and specifically you. I can reach out to John again and just say, hey, because we have that meeting, I think it's next week, or no, on the 16th. And I can just let him know we're going to come December 31st. Our board committees might be changing a little bit.
Are you talking, Stephanie, you talking about the Hungry Canyons thing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if it's anything we need to do right now. Why don't you include me on the Zoom meeting, and I'll just participate in.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll just see what's going on. Okay.
I mean, actually, they're they both work with watersheds, but Hungry Canyons is more on bank stabilization, right?
Well, bank stabilization, and that's a lot of what the East Nishnabotna was about, was bank stabilization for flooding issues. So I can see where, in fact, I think it's who's the head of that? John.
John Thomas.
Yeah, and he's been going to all the East-West Nishnabotna meetings, so I've seen him there. He's been present. So.
And the scoring committee basically reviews all applications from counties and landowners for the cost share through the Hungry Canyons Alliance. So I don't know. It was just a thought that I had because you are already so well involved in all the watershed managements. If there was something you would want to, and maybe not necessarily from you, Dean, but somebody else on the board want to hand over an appointment, I could hand mine to you. And I wouldn't see why I couldn't. I don't know if the nomination would still be there, but could be.
Well, I think it's a good consideration.
Okay, so the budgetary assignments, and also I think you, Steph and Dean, you received email from me pertaining to the recorder's office. There were some hours issues, and that's the only reason I said that to you is because there may be a request so you can kind of have that in your forefront, that what's going on there. There could be another piece of that pie that you would visit with Courtney about that. Sometime in the near future, she would tell you what her thoughts are on some of this. It's a kind of a piece that might fit in with that. So if you guys would kindly visit with her about that, would help when we get really close to the budget process. Both of those pieces may need addressed, or they may not. So
Okay.
if you would.
Yep.
And I kind of like to see us try to start on some of these boards. It's gonna be hard with Neil going off and Scott coming on, but it would, because the budgets are out to the department heads now, and they are working on them and should have them back to Courtney probably in a couple, 3 weeks.
I don't get them back until you guys meet with them.
Okay,
So the sooner the better.
so she can start putting this puzzle together.
So you might want to look at, since Carl mentioned it, I didn't even look at this. The PNC who wants to meet with, if you want to just bundle it in with environmental health, and then the GIS. If you want to have the same people that do IT do GIS, or I don't know. That way everybody knows where they're going.
Say that again, Courtney. I didn't quite hear that.
You'll need to decide, do you want to put P and Z with environmental health? Gary's going to be doing that, and then who wants to meet with Sarah with GIS?
And then IT would be separate in itself?
Correct, yeah.
Well, I think, yeah, I think P and Z can go with environmental health. I don't think there's any point in creating another spot there. And I don't know. GIS and IT, could those individuals just meet with those two individuals? You know?
Yeah, I mean, just so I know for the list here.
Yeah, I think that would be a good one. Just leave that with the IT people, because it does kind of fit in there with their process a little bit. So.
All right, I'll update this sheet and then set it out again.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay.
And as far as the new board member comes on, I mean, Stephanie, you were the last board member to come on. Do you recall us? We never started this before the first of the year.
No, but I do commend you a little bit. And because there are some scenarios where the board takes care of that are big, like especially mental health. I do commend these conversations that are happening prior. And if Scott, I'm assuming Scott's in the boardroom listening, the more educated he is on government involvement and the things that happen, I think is better than just walking in blindsided. Even though there is a learning curve, no matter what you do, there's a learning curve that we all have every day. But no, Dean, you're right. There wasn't much there was no conversation prior to January. Well, it would have been second. So I don't know.
It's always a weird piece of the pie. The person that's coming in doesn't control anything to do with the budget he's about ready to deal with.
Well, and I think in the past, there's a lot of years that we really didn't do any of this till after the first year.
Well, you have to remember,
And I know we keep trying to do it earlier and earlier, and it seems like we don't get it done.
well, and there's new publication requirements now, so we have to
Yeah.
publish. So I don't like it. It puts stress on me, and I don't like it. So we can get started earlier. That's better.
How do you really feel?
He doesn't like it.
I don't like it. I don't like everything being thrown at me and trying to get it done in a week. I want more time, and they've had them for a couple weeks now. I understand they might not all have them done because we haven't talked salaries, we really haven't talked health insurance. But let's get going. You know,
You know, so what do you think about that, Neil? I think you're about ready to say something, but I don't think it would be a problem with Scott meeting with the other two.
Well, that'd be fine if he does. It's quite a bit maybe to ask of someone who's, not being, not take office till January 1st. But what I was going to say, I was going to reach out to Stephanie and say, it's not like Scott just beat me in the election or anything like that. It's not an adversarial position. So if you have any suggestions of things I should do as a Scott's predecessor, let me know. And I want him to have as smooth of a transition into the office as possible. So if you have any suggestions, Stephanie, that's you're the newest member on the board, and if there's anything that could have been done to make it better for you, let me know, and I'll try to do it for Scott.
I'll reach out to you this next week.
Okay, so if you have a budget assignment and you would like to start on it, get a hold of your part, and if you can plug away and get started on at least one or two and get the information to Courtney as quick as we can so she can start plugging the pieces in. And we hopefully will know more on our insurance, and the cost of living is out there. If you're on Social Security, you've seen what the COLA is this year. It's not very much. Okay. Any other discussion on that? Okay, we're going to move to the discussion of the provisional paramedic wages. As you recall, we had two people that were trying to complete their paramedic education, and that was included with a ride-along. And with the pandemic, that got stopped a lot of places. We did squeeze, I believe maybe both of them went to Omaha to complete it. And they did get in, and I believe they have accomplished everything that they need to be a full-blown paramedic. Is that the letter we received?
Something like that, yeah. So, I mean, I know there's really not anything to discuss, but I had it on here to discuss it because I didn't know if the rest of you all knew what was going on, or, I didn't want somebody to say, well, we never talked about that again. Are they still provisionals or?
No, I remember we did a provisional because they couldn't get with the pandemic, they couldn't get the testing done.
Right.
And then once they became fully fledged that we was going to follow through on that.
Yeah.
I have no problem. We follow through. That was the
right.
discussion we had.
That was the deal where we were in, and I agree. Now my next question is, we kind of carved out a provisional wage there. Do we want to close that gap and not have that anymore until we come to that subject matter? Should we approach it sometime in the future? And just, there is no provisional. Don't leave that open.
I'd say with the union contract, you're not going to want to just. I'd say
Yeah.
if it happens again, have them come to you.
Right.
Yeah, I think at this point we have, being they're full-fledged paramedics, we have to follow the union contract.
Correct. I'm just saying the provisional side, we kind of carved out that arrangement.
That was for an isolated situation on a
That was a
specific deal.
one-time arrangement. Okay, I'm good with that.
I mean, if that case, if it comes up, God forbid it does, but
Right,
if that comes up, we'll have to address it at that time.
the board can address it then. Okay, so that sounds good. I agree with that. And would you want to put that in an email to Carroll that provisional is closed?
Okay.
That way we know that that's.
Courtney, do we need to make a motion that we move on this, or just move them over?
I don't think so. I'm gonna email
Okay.
them and let them know.
That's good with me.
Okay, the next thing up is a Class C beer permit for Al's Corner. Appears to be in order to me.
Yep, the names are changed, so I'll make a motion to approve the beer permit for Al's Corner.
I'll second that. Okay, any more discussion? We have a motion and a second on the Class C beer permit for Al's Corner Oil Company. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 And opposed.
I think it should be noted that's also not just the Class C, but it's also Sunday sales.
Yep. Very good. Thank you. All right, the next thing is a plat.
They're just platting off an acreage. I see nothing wrong with it. I reviewed it. Everything looks good, so I will make a motion to approve the plat.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the approve the one plat we have for today. All those in favor say aye.
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 And opposed? Motion carried. The next thing up is a manure management update for AJ Farms, Section 1, Hayes Township of Crawford County. That is a 4-year update with P indexes and rotation for optimum yield. Community reports, unless someone wants to sing.
I can go first. Last week, all I had for elected official meetings was the supervisor meeting, and then Dean and I were both on the emergency coalition meeting. Obviously, you guys received that email from Courtney this morning in regards to the trend, which it's going down, and Dean can talk more about it if need be. Then I did, again, I'm not going to touch into this too much, but Dean, when I received that email from Hungry Canyons about the nomination, but we'll discuss that at a later date. And then also I was virtually with Ottumwa Leadership Iowa, very good conversations, and Jen Gossick did a great presentation as far as what economic development means. And then we also had a presentation by Director Debbie Durham. So it was good. Unfortunately, it was virtual, so it was a little bit more hard to be hands-on and create the camaraderie and see all the great things that are going on in Ottumwa. But we're hoping this next one we will be together again, not virtually. This coming week, I do not have any official meeting except for this.
If you're finished, I can go next. On Tuesday, I had a Carroll Area Development had their meeting, board meeting. We talked about the private investment. They have up to this point, they've got $31,652 collected. And then we went through the budget for 2021 and approved that, talked about a planning session, and then covered project updates on the retail coach and RDC corridor thing. Everything's very active there. Up at Ashwood, they've got several looking to locate up there. They talked about some site project updates. There was one that they was in the running for, but that wound up falling through. And that was basically the majority of the meeting. Then also on Tuesday, we had the was that? No, yeah, Tuesday. That was the District 1 meeting, which Stephanie said she was at. I had joined that also. That was very interesting. It was kind of different with being virtual, and That was my week last week. This week we'll have the radio and the paper today. And I have policy council meeting on Tuesday and new opportunity board meeting on Thursday. And also this week, I will have to do a review for CEO yet this week yet. So that's my week.
Thank you, Gene. I'll go next. On Tuesday, I had the foster grandparent and RSVP meetings. We had a lot of routine business, agenda minutes, financials. They're all okay. Did talk a little bit about county funding. In previous years. We've given I think 9,000 to RSVP and 1,000 to foster grandparent. They're going to request the same whenever Courtney puts them on the agenda. We had we needed a couple of new board members, and we appointed Jerry Kleiman and Doug Bass to the board. So they're new members. We have a new recruit for foster grandparent, but he will not take or be active until after COVID-19 is over, as is a lot of our activities. We had some CARES Act funding that we're going to hear about this week. We think will be approved, and that money has to be spent by the end of the year. We had AmeriCorps senior augmentation with RSVP. That was for $5,000, and we're going to spend it on laptops so that they can use them with RSVP. And RSVP is going to put together blizzard packs as soon as they get the official amount from Hy-Vee that they've earned there. This week on Friday, I have the second judicial district. If there are no questions, that concludes my reporting.
I can go next if you're done, Neil. Last week, I listened in on the District 1 ISAC meeting. I thought it was very good, very interesting. I had the emergency coalition meeting on Friday, of which Stephanie referred to, and Becky did send out the kind of the update on the cases, which are going in the right direction. Sarah Schulte, the public health nurse, says she feels that the masking is helping and we're going in the right direction. I will say that I think that people are not gathering like they have in the past. I think there's not as many weddings right now, or maybe there aren't any weddings. I don't know. There's a lot of funerals. I think Sharp had like 21 funerals in November alone. That's a lot. And but I think they've been cutting back on how we're gathering at even the funerals, so which is a good thing. PPE, Sarah Anderson went down to Des Moines last week and got a big supply of PPE. I won't go back to the coalition meeting. One thing that the schools are seeing less cases, as well as the nursing homes. At the time, Manning Regional Hospital said they had no COVID patients at all, which these are all good signs. I think we're going in the right direction. We haven't seen we'll start seeing, I should put, that the Thanksgiving gatherings will start showing up now. So we'll see what that does to our trend line as far as cases are concerned. A question that I had of our public health nurse on Friday was, how are we going to handle the vaccine that we'll be getting? And it'll be through dry ice. They'll be acquiring. They've got a contract to acquire dry ice for the vaccine. And I didn't realize this, but McFarland Clinic makes their own dry ice. So there are some outlets. I'm not sure exactly when. I don't know if they're sure when they're going to get the first vaccine, but it will be, I think, within the next couple of weeks. So that was my week. Last week, this week, I have a conservation board meeting tonight. We're going to try to do that again. We haven't been successful the last 2 months, so maybe we'll take a stab at it again tonight. So that's my report.
Dean, real quick, I know you said on those boards, there is a company based out of Crawford County, that Continental Carbonic Products. If we run low, I don't know. I mean, it's obviously readily available because Crawford's right there, but it would be maybe an option for dry ice.
Oh, for dry ice?
Mhm.
Okay. That's a good point. Thank you.
Dean, if you, I have one question for you and one comment. In the process, when the vaccine comes to the county level, the order of whoever gets it first, can you keep the ambulance at the higher level, the ambulance crew, if you could push for that? And I think they are probably the under the gun as many as anybody is.
Yep.
We don't want to lose track of it. Number two, and then I don't know this for sure, but I do know if you get in a conversation where they're looking for cold temperatures, there's a company in Panora that has a Department of Defense contract for freeze-dried eggs. It's called Crystal, and they're Crystal Incorporated. They're a large company, and I think they have very sub freezers available. Now, whether they have room or not, that's the next trick, but they are a company that dabbles in that direction. So if you do get in a conversation, it might be worth a call or a look at them, or at least a visit with them, see if they have the capability. But I do know they have a Department of Defense contract, so that would probably speed the process up through the state level also. So just for your info.
Okay, you're great. Thank you. I mean, that's 90 degrees below 0 Celsius. So that's really, really cold.
Pretty special. Okay. I'll go ahead and go next. I did just sit in on the District 1 Supervisor call. Yes, it was very interesting, very informative. Times are different. I think we got the legislative updates were good. Then on Thursday, I attended a WIWD Zoom meeting, and we approved our scoring for the RFPs that we're sending out for single source providers, and that is approved, and those RFPs will be going out very soon. Next thing up was for this Thursday, I'm sorry, I have the executive board in RDC meeting for Region 12. And then Friday, I have a Iowa workforce, local development leadership. That's a statewide meeting. I'll be joining that via Zoom. And that is kind of running its course because all the regions are just about completely completed with their workforce regions. So that may be stopping soon. So, Carl, is there any
No comments,
questions?
no comments or questions.
Courtney, what do you have for us?
Next week is Bill Day, that's all I have.
Okay,
If there's nothing else, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
all right. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, motion carries.